Morning, everybody. Ian and the 6 Mile Bridge Historical Society. I actually am delighted to have joined. I'm going to tell you about how I became a steeplejack, and then I'm going to tell you about the radome. I'm going to go a little bit around now because my address is a bit of a problem. I was born and raised in Éanna, Kilkishen for a short while, until the farmer's thatched house fell down. And then we moved about to Kilkishen. We didn't like being in Kilkishen, my mom, because you're a farmer, you don't want to be changing your Wellingtons every 5 minutes of the day. So we changed with Mr. Maroney. Somebody of my age here might know Mr. Maroney. He used to fix bicycles, it suited him. It suited him to go into Kilkishen, and it suited us to go out, and we were just beside the farm. And then, to add more confusion, a house came up for sale, which was Martin Collins, right on the farm, small man in Kilkishen. His house, he was all in England. So between not fixing the thatched farmhouse and moving to ice, and in this Martin Collins' house for sale, my father was Martin Collins, which confused things. But anyway, they managed to buy this house. So that's why I was in, we were in Kilkishen, and the farm comes in afterwards in my story. Now I'm in Kilmurray, going to school, because when we were in Arden where this bicycle man left, and I went to school in Kilmurray till I was 11 maybe, and went down to the bridge and then to get confirmed. And that's how I'm in at the farm and living in Arden, just to clear that and put it away. Where did I go now after that? We used to leave the bicycle at O'Regan's shop in order to get the bus into Limerick. But we travelled regularly to Limerick, my parents, with produce from the farm, and we used to sell from door to door. So 6 Mile Bridge was the route. But when it came to going to secondary school, they routed me up to Tulla, maybe, for some reason. And I did 2 years there. And at 2 years, the nuns or somebody came in and said, there's a school in Limerick that when you do your leaving cert, you can go in, it's a finishing school. And I thought the word finishing was lovely, because I was ready to finish now. And I thought I knew it all, because I was 15. And there was no interest in educating women that time, nor only men. Because when you married, you had to give up your jobs. Women weren't allowed to work. And I went into Limerick anyway. I got my parents to take me in, and we went into the High School of Commerce in the Crescent. And I was booked in, but apparently it was a bit expensive. But it was only a few months to learn shorthand typing and bookkeeping, and I just loved it. I was in there with leaving cert students, but I loved this thing. All the twirls. I was so good that I'd even do it in the bus when everybody else were laughing. I'd stay in at lunchtime in order to get used to the typewriter when my friends were downtown looking for boys and all this. I was really dedicated. And this day a man came into reception, and my teacher said, "You open the door, Angela." And I ran down, taking a few steps at the time, delighted. He thought he was here to maintain the machine, the typewriters. Instead, he said to me, I said to him, "You're here at 12:15. You're not supposed to be here till 12:30 because the teacher can't come down to you during class. And you better go away and come back again." So he said, "Where are you from?" And because I was grown up in Arden, where there were no children, you appreciate it was McDonald's and Stevens's and McNamara's, and there was no children except my 3 brothers and myself. 4 brothers, but the other brother wasn't to be there, he was working. And we were welcome, and all there was beautiful neighbours, and all of them advising us what to do, which was a great neighbourhood. And great times to be advised and told, to have manners, and it was fabulous.
So he asked you where you were from?
He asked me where I was from, and he was talking for about maybe to 12:30, and then he said, no, but the bell rang, and I ran and back to the class, and she took over to talk to him. And by that time, he had asked me everything in the world that he wanted to, and he told me he was from Lixna, County Kerry. I was laughing at the men that was talking from Dingle, but he was starting a business in Limerick, and he wanted to set up. So he said to the lady, she'll be fine. And I was 16, and I didn't know what meant by fine, but I was told to go with him, and I went to his office, and there was a shed, like it was a builder's yard, and then he said, I looked around, and there was no office except a bit of a shed thrown together. So he gave me the job, £1 a week, and I was delighted to him, to his face. Returned to school, and the following morning I handed in the key to the teacher, and I said, I want to work in an office downtown, and I want to go work for the insurance company or something like that. So she said, that's all right. Took the key of the office, and he came back, and he told the teacher he wanted to see me again, and he gave me an increase of £1. So to the £1 the night before per week, and now it's £2. And money speaks all languages. At that point, I never saw the office, it was lovely. He told me that he wanted to set up and build an office. And he said, you can do what you like here, and all the rest of it. And he did keep to his words, but we won't go down that road. Now, during my 6 years there, it started with go for his dinner in my bicycle, and then he'd say go out now in the machine shop, there was machines, and take the phone out the window. Now I'll tell you what to do. Press the red button, put in a piece of copper, that'll cut that, and then he'd take me over to another machine, he'd say press that, and you'll get a lightning conductor with a ball and 3 little pieces of it, out of it, and he'd say now put that into a bag and put it on the train up to where I'm working. We're short of a lightning conductor. And how will I get it out? How am I going to lift it? Go out on the street and ask someone to do it. And then another thing, but it just went on and on. One day he told me I had to get a car. I hadn't the price of a bicycle. But I got the car, and he told me to get my father to sign a form for the hire purchase, and my father never knew it. But he said, imitate his signature, but do it. Anyway, I got the car somehow. And it was on hire purchase. So then one day he said, will you drive up to Mullingar, St. Lomans, and how will I get there? Get a map and all this kind of thing. Get the job done. Don't throw away just right if you haven't the job done. And I had a car on her purchase now, so it was seriously get the job done. So I went up to Mullingar, and the lads were up on the top of the chimney there. So I looked around, and I blew the hose, of course, and no one came down to me. So I walked around, and I said, how did they get up there? Because I want to leave. So I walked up the ladders that were vertically at the other side of the chimney, and nobody took any heed of me. I said, lads, come down and take the lightning conductor out of the car, and I was on my way. I had gone up 150 feet of a spire, of a chimney, and I didn't really notice, and they didn't notice, and my boss didn't give me any bonus or notice. I spent 6 magical years there learning from one thing to the other, going around to priests asking for work, and nothing was a problem. Then my boss, we were expanding and taking on, I think we went from 2 people to 16 in a very short time. He wanted to expand to Dublin, and he opened an office in Bachelor's Walk, and I was still running around and doing everything. And I met my husband John, a guard in William Street, and married, all about 1950 and 60s. 66 we got married. And then we were out in Carrickanish and had a house, because they supplied a house with a guard that time. Those were the days. And very happy, and we got a phone call from the guard station, because there were no phones in our homes those days, and it said, Mr. Lynch, my boss, had died of a heart attack in Dublin. My world collapsed. There was no job for the men, and my car was still on hire purchase. And I said, do you know, I knew a lot about the business. I could start small, and I had some savings, and I knew the people who made leathers, and he gave me credit. He was a dear Ironworks Nina. Could make a charter anyway. I formed a company, and I put my maiden name in it so it wouldn't be associated with John, because in those days you weren't supposed to be working. Especially if you're the guard. And it worked out. We were doing grand. I was getting work, and I had to advertise to go I had to advertise for Steeple Jack to come over from England, and got them. And I was wondering how I'm going to tell everybody, but you know, I send out circulars, but how are we going to really get known? Now I was getting ideas to get a bigger company, because I was getting to know things. And we got a call from, the Garda station got a call from RT Gay Byrne to know would I go on the show. And I said to John when he came in and gave me the news, it's only the guards themselves that rang you, John. You know, John was 21. Yes. And they were having a prank. I said, we're not going on the late, we're going nowhere. But as it happened anyway, I rang the following week, just in case that they might be looking for me. And they were actually, and I was taken up to Dublin and taken out to Donnybrook and all sorts. And that night was the 9th of March, and I was expecting Susan here. And I got on the show, and it was an American actress, the kindest lady. I can't remember her name now. Phyllis Diller.
Oh, right.
Phyllis Diller.
Medium.
She used to be sticking her hair up.
Yeah,
she
yeah.
was absolutely, she said. My knees were shaking, and she said, I will answer for you where you can't answer, don't worry. Pure, absolute lady. Anyway, we got over that, and Donnacha O'Malley died in 6 Mile Bridge that night. After midnight, 10th of March.
68.
Yeah, and I was coming home from Dublin. And of course, people radio come on and television come on. Every person, I'd say, took photographs and wrote our story. So my company was an overnight success. After that,
Sorry, Angela, is that late show available?
1968 is now.
It's not.
I think the words are available. I'm glad it isn't, because I wasn't saying very much. She was doing all the talking, but she did a great job. Anyway, it is. I tried for it. I have all the other archives. But I think the talk of that, but not the video.
Okay.
Anyhow, I was now burning gas, as they say. I was flying it. And it was really taking its toll. But I got a phone call in the office one day, and it was an American. And I was delighted I took it. And he said, could someone meet him at Woodcock Hill? Of course, no problem. Anything goes. And I was the only one that could meet him, because John was only learning gutters and downpipes, and he wouldn't have known enough. And he wasn't there anyway, he was up the country working. So I came here to Woodcock Hill, and I met this American, lovely, homely man. And we were talking away, and he says, when is Mr. Collins coming? And I was filled with my small talk, great talk and all that. And I thought I was doing well. So he actually, I said, I'm the only thing now this year, I'm the managing director. And he said, oh my God, what have I got myself into? And a woman at that. And he actually did a twirl on board that radome in disgust. And I said, but look at, we worked thousands of feet up in the air. I had actually a contract in Zittner in Germany at the time. And we were working for the ESB, and we were working for the ESB that you'll see on the television, 680 foot high. Those chimneys you see, we used to climb up those, replace the lights without the sheer side of the building, without any cranes or anything. So I said to him, this little job is no problem. And I showed him pictures, and then he calmed down. And he said, I'll give you the contract. And it's on the ground, like. We want to work on the ground. So he went back to America, and when I got to Shannon, I said I'd take him out in case he'd meet any builder on the way. And got my brother Michael to take him into the duty free and get him plenty of discounts. Anything you can get to get all the people all around him to welcome him. And off he went, and then the following December 1973, I decided with John that we'd go to his cousins in Toronto and pretend that we're passing through Boston. So didn't want to make an appointment because we weren't important enough, but we knew this fella very well. So when we got there, I went into the office expecting to meet the boss, who was a Mr. Cohen, in a small office like we were used to in Ireland. But I was taken into a boardroom and about 15 chairs, and very, very grand. And there's nobody sitting at it except my husband and myself. And John knew nothing, but I knew all about what I was doing there. I wanted to tell him first that you're making the radomes over in England under license, when you could be making them on my farm in Ireland, and you'd get lower tax, and you'd get grants on the idea to build the factory. You would get grants to travel to sell your product from CTT at that time, the Irish Enterprise Board. You can, Ireland has 42 offices around the world, and it's nice when you arrive in a foreign country and you don't know the language and you don't know how to make a phone call. It's nice to be able to go in there and leave your bag down. So I was waiting to know where was Mr. Cohen, the man I came all the way to meet. But all these older guys, and we were now 20s, all these guys came in, one older than another, and they were in their 70s, 80s, and I'd say maybe more. I learned afterwards that ESCO, that was the name of the company, Electronic Space Systems Operations, ESCO for short. They let their old people keep coming back in to offer advice, and I don't know if they're paying or not. But all those seats were filled, and here I didn't know what I was going to do. And if John wasn't there, I made a bolt for the door. But I managed to get, because John, we turn anything, he was fantastic with people. I think he told him he was a cockman, and that's all that matters. And he wanted to see cowboys, and he wanted to go on a farm, or what do they call them in the States? A ranch. And that's all was his interest there. And he was watching John Wayne and all his life, as all young boys were at the time. So that was his interest. And that broke everybody were talking about their experiences and whatever. Anyhow, I made my speech and left and went on to Toronto. And we had met his wife that night and his 3 daughters. But I don't think it was wasted, because the following summer he arrived in Shannon with his wife and 3 daughters. Went into the Limerick Inn, and they spent 2 months there. And we dined them and wined them and cliffs of water and the Galway races. We fed them with everything we could feed them with. And I think we got on very well with them. And then I brought him out to the farm, and he said, this is like Killarney. Look at the lakes. Angela had said, we'll build our factory here. And we'll give you a shareholding for the site that you're going to give us. And we had to give him 11,000. And the company was called ESCO Collins, made up of Collins, Steeple Jack, and my maiden name. So we started making the radomes and exporting them all over the world. And I knew that we'd be getting the installations. So then in '79, we got an order from China, and that doubled the size of the factory. We would have to invest more money, or either we'd reduce our little shareholding. So I had 3 years now put down of signing terribly huge checks that I really didn't know, because I was managing director and I didn't know what all these checks were for, because I wasn't working day to day in the company. So I was kind of nervous of that too. So I took this opportunity of saying, can we sell our shareholding? Because it was all too much as well. And I had got cancer then from the pressure. So we sold our shareholding, but we still did radomes. And that continued around the world until Mr. Cohen, then around 1998 or 9, he sold the company to L3 Communications. And when you think of Kilkishen, the factory, being sold to this company, which is public quoted company. I don't know how the founders even, but Mr. Cohen anyway sold, and he died, I think it was 2006, but he had a terrible death program. We then took our money, as well as there was something else he paid us. It was huge money anyway at that age. So we decided that we'd take our money and buy Landscape House, Clonlara, which is in the houses of Clare. And that we did nothing with it for years. But then after a while I got the idea of making it a golf course, because we were taking the visitors to the factory, to the mall and all the time. And because we couldn't play golf, we had always to stand aside and let the professionals pass. So I thought we'd make this golf course in Clonlara. And it worked out that Christy O'Connor opened that in the 80s, and it was really, really successful. It's on the banks of the river, beautiful place. And it wasn't for me. I just couldn't cope, and things were getting on top of me. So we decided we'd sell that. And we were, am I over time?
You're doing fine.
We put it up for about 400,000, and nobody was coming. And we thought that was a huge price. And it was, we had accommodation for 70 people, I think, like bunk beds, and we had cyclists, and we had a school tour actually from Japan. But I had been travelling now as well on selling radomes, and I had been meeting people on trade missions. And this one man, Mr. Kelleher, he was head of our sugar company, he said, Angela, what are you selling down there for 400,000? Could I go down and see it with a couple of the lads? So they arrived to see what we were selling. And I said, they're not buying anyway. So he said, do you know why they're not buying? It's too cheap. They're all suspicious. What's wrong? Double that, put it up for $1 million, he says. Okay. So we got the auctioneer to put it on the market for $1 million, Rooney Auctioneers. And they were landing in helicopters.
Oh my God, yeah. That's great.
Boys bands, school owners. So now we're really losing the plot. John could take anything, but I was like the front, and I wasn't really, I was out of my depth completely. So this Sunday, the people that offered to buy it now, the bidders, were cuter than the auctioneer. They called to us on a Sunday and knocked at the door. Can we make a deal, Angela? And I must ring Pat Carney. I must ring the auctioneer. No, you and I, we make a deal. So we'll give you what you're asking for. Oh my God, will you do it? So we signed and made the deal, and they went off. So we rode into the sunset. That was the end of Clonlara. So by this time now I had other health issues, and we moved to Arnacrusha, where you are now. But by this time we had also handed the business over to John and Susan to do exactly what we were doing. But they were a bit more courageous. We went to the very nice sites like all around Europe. Nairobi now would have been the most exciting place that I'd have gone. There was a man there in the aviation and he booked us to come down. I was talking to him on the phone and he said he went to Trinity and he married a Dublin woman. And he said, you can bring your kids over with you and they'll be minded here and you can go for a safari. What's that? But all that happened and I arrived back with his son, and this would be back the first bringing a black man into Clonlara, we go to mass with him, and a lovely man. So we got him an apprenticeship in Limerick and he stayed for 6 months and then he went back because he was in love with his own country, as you would be. But Susan then and John took over, and now I just hear from them that they were in the Antarctica. And their fear was to keep away from the bears. They're Steeple Jack. And they were in the North Pole and the South Pole, and still working for the new company. Not that we know them very well.
No, they got too big now.
They're actually...
They were bought out again by...
Yeah, and they joined up with Harris, L3 Communications Harris. 50,000 employees, public company. And we're 55 years working for them, and they hardly know us and we hardly know them, but we still get orders and we still get paid.
Thank God. Steeple Radome is great. It is fantastic.
Yeah, so this is what Susan and John are doing. My son was down in the Indian Ocean a while ago, and he told us that the Americans had taken the natives of the island off and housed them in the mainland, and give them whatever money to fix them up. And nobody exists on that island except 48,000 soldiers. And it's from there that that attack was launched in Iran there recently.
Wow.
And he said that one of the soldiers took him out to see the place. And he said, all around us there in those seas are submarines. But if any danger comes up in that side of the world, they can pop up or pop down or become whatever they have to be. And nobody goes on the island, only the soldiers. So our Steeple Jacks and John went over, and in our health and safety compared to theirs, all the supplies were in the centre of the plane, and there was seats on the side, and they had to sleep on the ground beside the supplies.
If it's a military plane.
Military plane. So I said the experiences they're having, and
It's fantastic.
like you went to South Korea and they were afraid of tsunamis. They weren't there in my time.
Yeah.
They were there for 6 weeks during COVID.
It's fantastic to still be putting them up.
Yes, so that's my story of how I became a Steeple Jack and how I became a radome.